Hello, hello. Today, a different topic, not especially about one camera, but a topic about street photography. I love to photograph buildings, nature, and just normal street life in cities, in villages. It's beautiful, I love it. And I remember when I was young and did that, and it was in the 70s of the past century, and when you were pointing a camera at someone, they weren't offended, or the maximum they did was take another pose or a better pose to be good on the picture. And today I sometimes, when I point the camera at a subject, for instance people or a crowd, I experience sometimes hostility. People don't like it anymore. They start screaming, I don't want to be on the internet, I don't want my picture, I don't want you to have my picture. I explain that it's analog and I will not put it on the internet and it's not something digital. But still the hostility is there, and I think it's increasing. So what I've noticed, I have one camera with a viewfinder on top, waist viewfinder. And that camera is a mirror, it is a SLR I use for street photography, and I don't have that problem because I have the camera on my belly, and nobody even notices you make a picture. And I also have a lot of folding cameras like this Vito. They are excellent for street photography because with the SLR you always hear the mirror, it makes a lot of noise. And with these cameras, you do not hear the shutter. They're very small. If you have this at waist level, if it was possible to have this at waist level, then nobody notices what you are doing. So I wanted to use this camera and this as well. These are only two examples which I want to use because I'm developing the thing I want to show you later. But first let me talk about these two cameras I like to take with me for street photography because they're small, you can fold them, you put them in your pocket, and you're ready to go. So that's the reason. But still, this one does not have a top viewer. Well, some time ago, you can watch it in the view list of my channel. I did a video on several gadgets for photography. One of those gadgets was this one, and I have used this one now a few times, and it works superb. It's a very clear gadget to convert this to a waist level viewfinder camera, and it has markings on top for wide angle 35 millimeters and normal 50 millimeters, so squares. You can see that is approximately the image you will get, approximately. But on the other hand, the normal viewfinder is this one, and believe me, it takes some luck to get exactly in the frame what you want in the frame, because it's a very small viewfinder. It's very hard to use. So anyway, I think even for that reason this is an improvement. The thing is, I did this for this camera. You need an external light meter, and when you have this configuration, and you have it in your hand, and you want to use the street photography, if you have a separate light meter, you have to hold it in another hand. For me that is not practical. So I was looking for something like an extra cold shoe that is usable, for extra accessories. Well, I looked on the internet and they are for sale, cold shoe, hot shoe extensions, but they're huge, constructions, and I was looking for something small, light. So I have a 3D printer. You must know my 3D printer is a very simple one. I think it's one of the cheapest 3D printers you can get. And there I designed a little gadget which you can use for my purpose. I will put the link to these printable files in the description of the video, so you can print them as well if you want. So I must say that this and the file, it works on my printer, and of course my printer is not, it's a very cheap one, so it has some tolerance, and maybe on your printer you have to adjust the size of the parts a little bit. Anyway, so I wanted to make something that converts this one cold shoe to a place for two cold shoes. For this one, my waist viewfinder, and this one, my external light meter. Also, I've mentioned this one in a previous video. It is a perfect little light meter. You can choose between aperture priority or shutter priority. Mine is set on aperture priority. So basically you have with this camera all the controls you can handle on waist level. Because for this camera, you know, here is the distance, the shutter speed, and here is the aperture. So mostly on street photography you choose an aperture and a distance, so you have a maximum depth of field. And then if you have chosen the aperture, you put in the aperture here, and then with the light in the environment at that time, it gives you the correct shutter speed, which you can set here. Everything you can control from waist level onwards. So yes, this is for what I thought it's ideal for street photography. Well, at least it is for me. I will use this gadget. I maybe have to perfect it a little bit more, because you can see there's a little bit of friction here. Not much, but it's possible. The thing is, with these old cameras, you know, it gives friction here, but I have another Vito and it doesn't give any friction. So, you know, it can also depend on the cold shoe, how worn out it is or not. But so then, you know, I thought, okay, well, this is super, you know, I can use this for my Kodak too. The thing is, the Kodak has a different setup for the cold shoe. The cold shoe of the Kodak is there, so, you know, I can put it here, of course, and the waist viewfinder here. But, you know, you have a sort of parallax, it should be here. So I made this thing basically from 3 parts, and you will find in the description the link to the files, to those 3 files for those 3 parts. Well, actually to 2 parts, because one thing of this is very easy to, well, yeah, to construct yourself, and it is a variable thing. The 2 main parts are this one, the socket that goes on the cold shoe. I call it the male cold shoe, and here is the other part, the extra cold shoe. So these 2 elements, you will find a file separately as well. And then with only a sort of beam like this one is 1 millimeter thick and about 60 millimeters wide, but with this beam you can adjust, you know, the measurements you need for your camera. So with these 2 parts you are able now to make this cold shoe extension for basically any other camera, because it's very easy to make it very adjustable to any type of camera. I told you, here's the retina, and I have modified it with the 2 separate parts, this one and this one. Now you can see the difference. Basically I only moved this part to here, and in the 3D design program I use Tinkercad. It's very basic but very easy, and you can, you know, glue them together. You can put them together and merge them together to one piece. Now, look what happens here. So this took me 10 minutes for printing, and when I had designed this one to design took me longer because it was trial and error for all the sizes, for the width of this, the thickness, etc. Again, my printer is not so accurate, so it was trial and error. But then, to make this one, it went very quickly. You see here what we have. And now, we have the same setup as... Oh, you see, I have to put this a little bit further, like here. And now I also made this retina with a perfect waist viewfinder. Again, you know, it is quite accurate. The image you see here, it's clear. That is very clear. And look here, this little pinhole is the original viewfinder. So only for that reason it is nicer to have it like this. The same with the little Vito. It goes for here. I set this one on aperture priority. I choose my aperture. I set the distance in which I hope most of my I have the greatest depth of field to get everything sharp if I want to. And with the chosen aperture, I measure what kind of shutter speed I need, and I adjust the shutter speed right here on the dial for the shutter speed. So, and it goes well way up to 1/5 of a hundredth of a second. And then once set, you know, you just, yeah, you can still can reach this shutter button. You can forward the film. Everything you need is accessible. And also now this camera is converted to a camera you can use for street photography. So fold it. It looks like this. You know, still very compact to take with you, but you know, you can take this along with you in your pocket loosely, and then, you know, set it up once you are in the city or the street you want to make your pictures in. So, well, that I wanted to share with you. Again, you can find the files below. I will, yeah, you see this one is a little bit too small, so to avoid that it slides off, you know, it's very simple. Or I put it a little bit more forward, or I just put here a little bit of tape, and then, you know, it goes right in there. You know, again, this was a first setup. It was very quickly done, but I wanted to show it to you so you can have your advantage with it. What I'm making now is, because I also have some old folder cameras, mostly medium format, and they have these foldable viewfinders up. And for that camera I'm also making a 3D printed cold shoe socket, because those cameras of mine don't have cold shoes sockets, the old folders. I make cold shoe sockets over this little viewfinder of the old camera, and there you can use this setup as well. That is the next design, and I will show it to you, of course, when it's ready. Now, for now, I hope you enjoyed this little thing. If you have any questions or remarks, just list them below. And well, maybe if you have some things printed on a 3D printer, when you think, okay, well, this is very nice for old folding cameras or cameras like this, share it. Thank you very much, and till the next time.